Hello and welcome to this video series on PHP. We're going to make an application, clothing store application, and this is basically what it looks like, the home page here, and it's going to have a little bit of a parallax effect. I know that's real popular right now. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're also going to create, we're going to use Twitter Bootstrap in this, so if you haven't had any exposure to a framework, CSS framework, this is going to make it really quick and easy for us to mock this up and go from there. So basically it's just going to be featured products. We're going to have over here on the left side, we're going to have some filtering options to filter by brand and things like that, and we have some drop downs for different categories up here. That's going to be dynamically loaded from our categories. We're going to have a little pop-up here, and this will show the images, and we're going to have details, and you can pick a size and whatnot. And then add to cart is going to take this to a working shopping cart that you will be able to actually process credit cards. We're going to use Stripe for that. And so anyways, if you haven't had any experience before, just a little bit of warning. I would say this is kind of a intermediate or more of a beginner / intermediate series, so you'll need a little bit of knowledge of HTML and CSS. Be helpful as well if you've had a little bit of PHP. If you haven't checked any of that out, I recommend phpacademy.org for the PHP. There's some great tutorials on there. Also, there's some great YouTube channels. You can check some of those out. Maybe I'll show you some of those later. So yeah, you check out Dev Tips. He's really good. The New Boston. You can also check out Flash Builder, I think, is Adam Corey. Just check out Adam Corey. He's got a really good series on there. So anyhow, let's just get started with the project here. If you're going to also need a local server to build and test this on, so if you haven't already, go to www.apachefriends.org and download the XAMPP for your platform, Windows, Linux, or Mac. The installation is fairly straightforward, so I'm not going to show you how to do that. You just follow the installation here. There's tutorials and things like that, and you know, forums that can help you do that if you need help. But I'm not going to go into that. But you do need that installed. To start it, let me shut mine down real quick. I'll show you how to start it on. By the way, I'm going to be using Linux for this series, so if you're using Mac, a lot of the terminal commands will be exactly the same. If you're using Windows, you'll need to look some of those up, but you may be able to get by without using any terminal at all. You just need to learn how to do it. So anyways, on Linux, it's just sudo, and then you navigate to opt lamp, and then you're going to run lamp and start as an argument, and then you can see that starts the server up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and create the folder structure. To do that, we're going to navigate, so CD for change directory, opt lamp htdocs. htdocs is the folder in which your projects will be stored in. So if I ls, I can see all of my projects here. I'm going to make a new project, and we're just going to call it make directory. We'll call this one just tutorial. That's fine. Now if I ls, I can see that tutorial's there. So let's go ahead and cd into tutorial. ls again, I don't have any files. So we're just going to start out, we're going to make an index.php right there in the root directory. So you just touch index.php, and also I'm going to make another directory in here. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to do the index.php for now, and then I'm going to open this in a text editor. I'm going to use Atom, which is made by GitHub. It's a really awesome editor. It's based on Sublime, which is another really awesome editor, but it's open source and free, so you can download that. It's cross platform. So you see here it opened up. We just have our tutorial root folder and then our index.php. Let's go ahead and add our Bootstrap files. So you can head to getbootstrap.com and click download. I've already done that, and I have it right here on my desktop. So I'm going to extract those files really quickly, and it creates a folder. So I'm going to open this folder up, and you see you got 3 folders in here. You have a CSS, fonts, and JavaScript. So what I need to do is copy those into my projects folder. So our projects again are stored in opt, and this is on Linux, so you have to look this up for Mac or Windows, but it's stored in your htdocs, and then I'll find our tutorial, and you can see I have an index file in there that we created earlier, but I'm just going to copy all of these and just copy them right into there. I'm also going to copy my images folder into here. I have that saved. You can check the link below in the description, and I'll put these images up. These are not images that I own. Don't use these on anything. I just downloaded them on Google. So that's kind of a bad thing to do. So please don't use these. This is just for demonstration purposes. So copy, paste. The other thing I like to do is this. You wouldn't want to do this on a live server, but JavaScript files and things like that give me permission errors sometimes and won't run. So what I do is inside my, I'm going to back up one directory here, and if I ls, you can see right here that my tutorial directory is just regular. I need to make it have read-write permissions for everyone for my local server, and I'm sure you can set your local server so you don't have to do this, but I haven't done that yet. So anyways, the command for this is just change mod, and I'm going to do recursive 777, and again, you wouldn't want to do this on a live server, but I'm going to do the whole tutorial deal. So now if I ls, tutorial is highlighted in green, and that's because it has full read write. I just do that again just so that I don't have any problems later with my server not wanting to read the JavaScript files. So now if I open up my text editor again, we can see that we have this Bootstrap CSS, we have all the icons, and this is the images folder. We have a bunch of images in here that we're going to be using for the project, and again, those are not free to use. You can use them to learn with, but please get your own images if you're going to use anything for live. And then we have our JavaScript. We are going to be using jQuery. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start this project. So we're going to open up our index.php, and to get started, we're going to do an HTML5 doc type. So we just do this. Oh, excuse me. Doc type HTML, and then we will do our open and close our HTML tags. Alright, so let's inside of our HTML tags, we're going to do some head tags and go ahead and do our body tags now. I like to open and close everything as we go, just so I don't miss any closing tags. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to create the user interface of this website first. We're just going to do the index page, and then later we're going to actually split this up into separate files so that we can just include our navigation on every page. We don't have to copy the code off. But to start off with, just to make things easy, we're going to put all this in one file. That's not the way we're going to keep it, and so we're going to do our interface first, and then we're going to come back and do all of our PHP and make the thing actually work. So here we go. In the head, let's go ahead and give this thing a title. By the way, I'm using a plugin called Emmet for Atom that is allowing me to just type the name of the tag and hit tab, and that auto completes for me. I'm going to call this Shanta's Boutique. Alright. And then we're going to go ahead and put in our links. So first of all, we'll do all this autocomplete here. So inside of our CSS folder, if you drop this down here, you can see that we have a bootstrap.css. We'll go ahead and use that. You could do the bootstrap.minify.css. That would be a little faster if you're not going to be changing any CSS. And you know what? We'll just go ahead and do that. So bootstrap.min.css. Don't really need any of this. Let's simplify that. We could leave that though. It doesn't make a difference. We're also going to create another CSS file inside of our CSS folder. So I'm going to hit new file, and I'm just going to call this main.css. That might be a bad name for it, but you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call mine main.css. And then underneath, this is important that it's underneath the Bootstrap because it's going to override some of their styles. It has to be below it, so we're just going to call this main.css. And again, I'm just going to get rid of this stuff here. You could leave that if you want. So now we have our two CSS files that we're going to use for this project. We may add more later, but I think we'll just do it in these two. That's fine. The next thing we need to do, for this to be responsive with Bootstrap, we actually need to do a meta tag, and we're going to do viewport. Man, I can't type tonight. I've had a long day at work. And then with content, we'll do width equals device width. We'll do initial scale equals 1, and we will do user scalable equals no. This just ensures that this works on mobile devices like iPhones and things like that. So now we need to include jQuery and our Bootstrap JS. So let's do script. Actually, sorry about that. Script source equals HTTPS. I'm going to use the CDN for this. You could actually download the you could download. Man, I am very sorry. I'm kind of trying to type and do this at the same time, and this is some of my first videos I've ever made, so just bear with me. I promise this will be a fun series. It also maybe teach you some things if you're new to programming. 2.1.3 jQuery.min.js. Alright. That's going to include the Google CDN of the jQuery. And then right here we have, in our JS folder, we have a bootstrap.min.js. We're going to go ahead and include that now. Source equals, and then we're going to get to some fun stuff. So JS bootstrap.min.js. Close my script tag. Alright, that's it for our head tags here. For now, we have our two CSS files linked in. We set a meta to take care of scaling on mobile devices, and we've included our jQuery. I don't usually use jQuery. Sometimes I do, but a lot of my projects I prefer to write JavaScript, just kind of vanilla for my functions. But since I'm using Bootstrap to do this quickly, I went ahead and had to put jQuery in so that some of the Bootstrap components will work out of the box. And that's fine. We'll just go ahead and use jQuery too. But I do recommend learning JavaScript and maybe not including really bulky libraries if you can help it. I know it's just really quick to do that stuff. So anyways, that's what we're going to do for now, but don't rely on libraries. And in fact, if you don't have a lot of experience with CSS, try to do some of the CSS stuff. Do some projects where you commit to yourself like you're not going to use Bootstrap, and just go through and do all your layout and everything with CSS, and just fight through that. You'll be glad that you did, and it'll help you when you go back to learn the libraries. You can then modify things really easily once you learn how everything works. Okay, so now if we go ahead and load our deal, and we do that by we put localhost / the name of our project, and since our XAMPP is running, we got here, you can see we have nothing on the page, and that's good because we haven't put anything on the page yet. So let's go ahead and take care of that. We're going to add the navigation first. So right here in the top of the body, what we're going to do is we're going to add a nav, and it's going to have a class of navbar. Again, this is I guess I can't do that because it's, I don't know why I can't do that. Emmet must not do that right now, or it's because I'm using a .php extension. But anyhow, we do nav with a class, and these are all Bootstrap classes, so you can look this up on getbootstrap.com. But we're going to do navbar. I'm going to give it a class of navbar default, and we're going to give it a class of navbar fixed top. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and close nav here. This is, by the way, going to be our main navigation of the site. So inside there we need a div with a class of container. Alright, like I said, I like to open and close all my tags as I go. Alright, so now inside of this class container we need an unordered list. Most navigations are built with unordered list. This is another Bootstrap class that we're going to give this of nav and navbar dash nav. You end up getting into a lot of nested divs and things like that with Bootstrap, and in general you do too. But so inside of here, each one of our elements are going to go inside of a list item, and the list items are going to have a class of dropdown. We're only going to put one dropdown in here for now because later we're going to dynamically generate these dropdowns with PHP. So inside of our list items, actually, before I do that, just really quick, right before our unordered list here, let's back up here and let's put an A tag here. This is going to be our little header. So href, we'll just put we're going to have this link back to the home page, so index.php, and we're going to give this a class of navbar dash brand. This is all on Bootstrap's website, so you can check that out. But what we're going to do is inside here we're going to put Shanta's Boutique. Alright, and so back to our drop down now. Right here in our list item, we're actually going to do, we need to put a link in here for our drop down, and we're just for now going to give this href, we're just going to give that a $, or hashtag for you young kids, or I'm sure there's a more I'm sure there's a better word for that, but I call it a $, or hashtag. I kind of bounce back and forth. I'm kind of new school and old school. Alright, so class, we can give it a drop down toggle. That's a Bootstrap deal. And then we're going to give it data toggle. Data toggle. equals drop down. All right. And what this is doing is it's actually going to run a JavaScript function without us calling the JavaScript. So that's what this data allows us to do that. So data-toggle, that's predefined in Bootstrap. So it's not something we're going to do. But the first one I'm going to do is men. Later we'll have women and boys and girls and things like that. But like I said, we're going to generate that. And then I'm going to put a span tag in here. Go ahead and open and close those. And then inside of the span tag, I'm going to put nothing actually, but I'm going to give class an attribute, or I'm sorry, the span a class attribute, and we're going to call it carrot. Now that's predefined in Bootstrap, and what that's going to do, let's just save it out and go back to our browser and refresh. And now you can see we got this nav bar at the top here. This Shanta's Boutique here links back to our home page, but that's our nav bar brand. And then this is our drop down. We don't have anything in our drop down right now, but that span carrot made this little down arrow thing, that carrot right there. Alright, so that's where we're at now. So now we need to give it some options in the drop down. So in order to do that, we're going to create another UL, or unordered list, and we're going to give it a class of drop down menu, and we're going to give it a role. Okay, let's see that. Give it a role of menu. And all this, you can get all this directly from Bootstrap. This is nothing I'm really creating here from scratch. So I'm gonna see if this works. Li, let's just do 4. Damn, it's not working with that right now. So Li, and we're gonna do, let's do shirts, and then actually we're going to wrap this shirt in an anchor tag. So for now we're going to just give all of our anchors in these menus a £sign for an href, and then we're going to close that out here. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste this a few times to give us a few options. Alright, so we got shirts, pants, shoes, and accessories. Alright, let's save that out, refresh our page and check it. And it's not working. So why isn't it working? Let's inspect the element. Failed to load resource. Alright, so it's not getting our main.css, and it's also failed to load our Google API. Alright, so we got some issues here. Maybe you guys caught that when I was typing. So first of all, I got a trailing here. Let's just get rid of that. That'll load our CSS. Let me check my link here for ajax.google. Okay, yeah. It's apis.com/ajax libs jQuery. Sorry about the bad link here, guys. jQuery.min.js. Alright. And that should be good. So let's go ahead and refresh this now. And still not working. So let's check our requires jQuery. Still not loading. 2.1.2. We need 2.3. Just a bunch of bad links here, guys. I do apologize. There we go. Alright, so after we got all that fixed, we can finally use jQuery and JavaScript here within Bootstrap. So that's our menu. That's all we're going to do for now. We'll generate more of these and all of these categories later within our PHP file. We'll just basically create a loop, and we'll query our database and dynamically create that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave this open so in case you guys need to look at links now that I had to fix mine. So that should all work now. So let's move on to the logo, and this is going to have the images that have a slight parallax effect. So let's get going on that. That's going to be fairly easy. After our nav here, I'm just going to create a little bit of space, just give it easy so that later we can easily separate this stuff out. I'm going to go ahead and put a comment here, and we're going to say header right here. I'm going to create a comment, just say top nav bar. Like I said, later we're gonna extract all this and put this all in separate files. For now, we're gonna do it all on one page. So for our header, what we need to do is we're just gonna basically put a div, and we're gonna give that div an ID, and I'm just gonna call it header wrapper. I'm not really good at naming things, so if you guys are like, oh, your naming convention sucks, I totally understand. Go ahead and create your own names if you don't like mine. Just remember what you call it. I'm going to create another div inside of this. I'm going to give it an ID of back flower. I'm sorry about that. I need to close that. We're not actually going to put anything in these divs. We're going to use CSS background images in here. I'm going to say logo text. Alright. And I'm going to put one more in here. I'll give it an ID of for flower. Alright. So believe it or not, that's all the markup that we're going to need for the header. And by the way, this big header image we're only going to use on the home page. For the other pages, we're going to probably use a separate image. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, so what we're going to do is let's start styling this thing up. So let's save this out and go back here to our page and refresh. You'll see that nothing happens, and that's okay because we didn't put anything in those divs. There's actually not any more content or markup, so those divs are fully collapsed. We're going to take care of that by doing some CSS here, and first thing we need to do, and I read this on the Bootstrap site, I didn't learn this the hard way, but because we use that top navbar fixed deal, our content will be buried behind the navbar unless we give it some padding on the top. So the first thing we're going to do in our main.css file here is we're going to target the body, and we're going to give it some padding top, and 50 pixels worked out alright for me. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to target our header wrapper. Alright, and we target IDs by using the # as our CSS, and that's the ID that we gave it right here. So header wrapper is an ID, so that's how we target it in CSS. Okay, a couple things I'm going to do here is we are going to do position relative, because we need to absolutely position the other background images within this. Positioning this relative will just give it a base point for us to do positioning within. So we're going to position things inside of it relative to its position. So that's kind of a bad explanation. There's guys on YouTube doing a much better job explaining that, so yeah, you can look up some CSS positioning stuff. But basically we want to give this a relative position, and I'm going to give it some padding of 0, margin 0. I'm going to give it overflow, and yeah, we'll do overflow hidden. That way it won't create a scroll bar. And then we're going to give it a height of 600 pixels. Alright. Then I'm going to give it a background image. Background image. And then do a URL. And in the images we're going to use is in the images folder, and it's header logo folder background.png. Alright, so let's just save that and see what we got. Okay, nothing's showing up yet. That's fine. So let's see. Height 600 pixels. Header wrapper. Save that. Refresh. Failed to load. Background.png is not there. So images. Oh, I forgot my S here. So in the images folder, inside header logo, background.png. Alright, I should get something now if I save it. I guess I have to excuse me, I do this all day. Alright, so you can see we don't see the whole image right now. We need to work on the sizing, and I'm scrolling right now, that's making it do that. But we're going to do some sizing on it, and then we're going to, oh, I keep doing that too. Maybe I shouldn't make these videos. I suck at this. You guys just bear with me. I'll get better at making these videos, and you'll get better at coding. Alright, so background, repeat. We're going to do no repeat. Alright. And let's go ahead and do this. Let's give this background size. We're going to give it a width of 100%, so it goes 100% of the screen, and we're going to give it a height of 700 pixels. You might have to change this around between the height here and the background height, depending on the image that you use. But for our image, I've played around with it a lot. These are the settings that I'm going to use. Just save that and see what that did. Alright, so now we see that our image is 100% of the width, and you can see it's a blurry image. I thought that'd be cool for the background, kind of like a defocused type of thing. Alright, so we're getting close to being done with the styles on this wrapper, but what I want to do is give it a background position of top center, and then background attachment. This is really cool. This background attachment fixed will allow us to, and we're not going to be able to scroll much now, but when we scroll this, it's actually, the page will scroll past the deal. It's a really bad example because I don't have enough content on the page to be able to scroll yet. So let's see here. Or if I have some, make a paragraph tag below here and some let's see here if I can just grab some lorem ipsum I'll just grab all this text here, that's fine. This is just going to give us something to scroll so we can see what's going on. We'll delete all that later. Alright, let's go back here and refresh. Now I actually have some text, and I'm going to copy that a few times. But you can see what's happening is because we have that set, we have that background attachment set to fixed, we're able to scroll the page and the background image is actually fixed and not moving. So that's really cool. So let's just copy that a few times. So you can see like the page is scrolling up over, it appears to scroll over the background, but it really is just a fixed, instead of the background scrolling with the page, it's scrolling like that because it's fixed. Okay. Anyway, so let's get back to it now that we can actually scroll. Let's see, we won't need that again. Alright, so back to our code. We're back to our header here. This is what we're actually styling right now. So the next thing I want to style up is the logo in the center. So let's go ahead, and that was an ID as well, and it was logo text. So we're going to give that now a position of absolute, because we're going to position that within our it's nested within our relative div. Okay, so when you use absolute, it's looking for the next the parent, the first parent div or element that is position relative. Okay, so we're going to give this also a width of 100%. We're going to give it a height of 180 pixels, and we're going to go ahead and, I think it'd be a good idea to actually put the background image in there. So background image, we'll do URL, and that was in images, header logo, let's just call it text.png. I'm seeing that right here, images, header logo, text.png. Which, by the way, I had to do this to back up a directory because the CSS is inside of this directory. So anytime you have to get to a directory above that, you use this right here, the .. slash. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Refresh. Alright, so now we have our logo here and it's repeating. So let's take care of that. Let's do background, repeat, no dash repeat, no dash repeat. Alright, that'll take care of that. And let's also do background position center. Alright, take a look at that real quick. And now it's not repeating and it's centered. But it's stuck to the top of the page here, and it's not quite sized the way I want it just yet. So let's do a couple things here. Let's do background size, and I'm going to do 70% for the width and 180 pixels for the height. And give this, since we used position absolute, I can set the height now. I'm going to set that to 50%. So let's look at that. Alright, so what this is actually doing is it's setting the top to 50%, but I actually want this centered on the page. So in order to do that, I know the height is 180 pixels, so I'm going to do a little bit of margin here, and I'm going to give it a margin top, okay, of -90 pixels, which is half of 180. So what that's going to do is bring that back up to where it'd be centered on this screen. Alright, so now that scrolls with this, and we actually kind of have a parallax effect going on right now where that scrolls with the page, but it's the background actually stays. But we're going to do something cool later where that stays in the center and you can see it the whole time until, pow, you just can't see it anymore. I don't know what I'm talking about. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is add that flower right here in this corner here. So let's get back to our CSS, and this one was the ID of for flower. Alright, and we're going to give this a position of absolute. Alright, we're going to give it a width of 100%. We're going to give it a height of 350. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We're going to give this a height of 400 pixels. And let's go ahead and bring it in here by doing background image URL. And it's in images, header logo, for-flower.png. Alright. And we'll do a background size of auto for the width and 400 pixels for the height. We need to make sure it doesn't repeat, so we're going to do background repeat no dash repeat, and let's see, this time I want to do background position, and I want this to be position right bottom, and let's see, no repeat, got our position. Alright, so we're going to make this 525 pixels from the top, and from the right, and again we can do this because we have position absolute, from the right I'm going to do a -50 pixels. So let's see what that gives us. Nothing. Let's inspect this element, make sure I got my link right. Alright, I don't have any. Alright. Oh, okay, here's the problem. I have a typo. Big surprise. So here, I forgot the E there. Save that out. Most of the time that I spend in coding is actually fixing issues, but you can see just the flower petals right here on the bottom corner. And actually, if you want to see that whole flower the way that looks up here, let me just comment out this overflow hidden. Let you see what's going on here. So there's the entire image, but I have it positioned relative with this to where only this is showing up. And later what we're gonna do is we're gonna scroll this thing upwards quicker than we're scrolling the page, so that it has a parallax effect while it's scrolling. So let's go back to here, and we're gonna uncomment overflow hidden, and that just cuts it off. It doesn't show any overflow. Alright, so that's looking good. The last one that we need to style is our background flower, and it's just kind of a blurred flower, and it's going to go behind the logo here. So in order to do that, we will target it, and it is back flower, unless I spelled it wrong. We're going to give it, do a lot of the same exact things here. Is starting to get repetitive. So absolute for position. We're going to give it a width of 100%. We're going to give it a height of 350 pixels. So let's go ahead and put this in here. Background image. Sorry if you guys can hear my dog over there being disgusting. He makes the most disgusting sounds when he's cleaning himself. It's ridiculous. He's a pit bull. It's like really awesome dog, but he's just kind of gross. Alright, images. Well, he sounds gross. He's not gross. Well, he kind of is gross. He does typical gross dog things like rolling in any kind of dead animal or whatever he can find outside, and he usually does it right before I go to bed. So I have to give him a bath like right before I go to bed, and I'm all aggravated with him, and I'm tired and angry anyway. So anyhow, let's do background, position. We'll position this one the left. Oh, if I could spell, left bottom. We'll give it a background repeat. No repeat. Right. Let's do background size. We'll do auto for the width and 350 pixels this time for the height. Make it a little smaller than the other one. Let's see. Let's make this bad boy 400 pixels from the top. And from the left, let's do -25 pixels. Alright. Let's take a look at that. So yeah, that adds this kind of blurry flower here, which basically when I did these, I just used the same image. Here, I'll show you. It's pretty obvious what I did. So you guys could definitely make this better by using better images, and you're probably better at graphics than I am. I actually am not very good at graphics. I'm more of a back-end developer. So any of you really design freaks out there, you see my designs, you're gonna be like, oh, this guy sucks. Well, it's because I do a lot of the programming on the back end. I do very little front end programming. So anyhow, what were my thoughts? Oh yeah, let's go ahead and comment out overflow hidden, and you can see these are the same exact images. What I did was I cut this image out of another one kind of poorly. You can see some of the anyways, I used GIMP and I cut this image out of another image that I found, and all I did was transform this horizontally, like flipped it 180 degrees. I changed the hue of it, I desaturated it a little bit, and I blurred it, gave it a little bit of a blur so that it can have the appearance of being a little out of focus. Because this one's going to be the front ground, then we got our logo, and then this is the background, and then our background is really out of focus. So imagine, you know, a modern photography where the thing you really want to focus on is in focus, but everything in the background is defocused or out of focus. So that's the idea here. It's kind of have how your eyes work anyway. Your brain kind of blocks out everything that's you're not focusing on. All right. So that's it. That's our header, and we're going to do the JavaScript next to actually make that work. And it's pretty simple. Most of the time, like I said, I would use vanilla JavaScript. However, because we're using jQuery, we have jQuery included already. We might as well use jQuery. So that's what we're going to do. Let's head down here now to the bottom of the page. And at the bottom of the page, right above this body tag, give me a little room here. Right above the closing of that body tag, I want to put in some script tags. All right. Inside these script tags, anything I put in here is going to be JavaScript. So, what we need to do is actually target the window scroll function. So, for jQuery, what you want to do is do jQuery here, and we're targeting the window. So this jQuery window, this is kind of like in JavaScript if you were to do, you know, you target something like document.window or something like that, or document.getElementById. You know, is how you would do that in regular vanilla JavaScript. With jQuery, you know, a lot of times too, jQuery you can just use the $, but sometimes that causes conflicts with different files. So sometimes I get in a habit of just using jQuery like that. But you can definitely do the $. In this situation, you probably won't run into any issues, and if you do, if you have some JavaScript errors, just change that to jQuery. It'll probably fix it. So what we're going to do is create here in the scroll. I'll show you here what happens. I'm going to create an anonymous function inside of here. It's not going to get any parameters, but I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it, we can call it vScroll for vertical scroll, or we can even call it wScroll for window scroll, or whatever. But just create this here, and we're going to do jQuery this dot scroll top. All right. So that assigns a variable vScroll to our scroll top function. This is all provided to us by jQuery. All right. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to console log this so that you guys can see what it's doing. So vScroll. All right. So now let me put this back here, and down here in the console you'll see when I scroll, let me refresh the page. Yeah, when I scroll, you see this number that shows up. It's gonna every time I scroll, it's gonna tell you how many pixels I scroll. So right now I've scrolled 159 pixels from the top. So if I keep scrolling, you can see that variable is equal to my scroll. So every time I scroll, it runs that function. So that's really useful, because now that we have that, I can actually I can animate these by doing a little math on this variable. So let's see what that looks like. So we don't need this console log anymore. I was just putting that there to show you what that does. And we're going to first work on the logo text, because that's important. It is our logo, by the way, so it's going to be the most prominent thing. And we're going to do something kind of cool here. We're going to target that div with the ID of logo text, and we're going to target CSS. All right. And so inside of, let's see. All right. So inside of this CSS, we got this really cool thing, this transform. And let's see, translate. We're going to translate. Alright, so we're going to translate in the horizontal or the x-axis 0 pixels. We don't want any translate there. But on the vertical, what we're going to do is actually close this out and append or concatenate our variable. Alright, so we'll do our variable and we're going to divide that by 2. And then what we're going to do here is we got to say pixels. Okay, so what's happening here, if you're not familiar with JavaScript, these double quotes is ending this, and then I'm concatenating on our variable divided by 2. So you remember those numbers that was shown in the console log, and then that's going to be pixels. Okay, so that's all we need to do for that, and that's actually going to work if I typed everything correctly. And now when I scroll, you can see that the logo is staying right there in the center because it's taken the amount of pixels that we scrolled and it's divided by 2 and it's translating it down. So essentially it's staying right in the center until we can't see it anymore, which I think is really cool. So that's how that works. Alright, so we just need to kind of do the same thing for the other 2 elements. I can copy and paste these if we want. So copy that. Give me a little room. Okay. So this one is the same exact thing, except for let's work on the back flower CSS. And the only thing we're going to change here is we want this, I'm going to scroll a lot slower with it, so I'm going to divide it by 12. And then I'm also right here before this, I'm going to give this a negative value so that instead of it scrolling downward from the top, it's going to scroll upwards. So it's going to scroll faster because it's going to take the pixels divided by 12. And then I'm going to do something a little bit interesting too, and you don't have to do this, but what I want to do here is I'm going to take our variable of vscroll here, and what I want to do is I'm going to take that divided by 5, alright, and let's see how that looks. So this is actually going to move, it's going to move upward as we scroll, and it's going to move inward, and it's going to be slight, it's not going to be, you know, but you see how it moves inward a little bit, and so by the time it gets here, it's kind of behind the S and the H there. I think that's pretty cool. So, and also you can see at the bottom of the screen, like, it also moves up some. See this a little higher, it's a little higher, so this pedal is being being revealed, but it's not scrolling nearly as fast as some of the other stuff. So that's kind of like a parallax effect there. Alright, and this isn't the greatest example of parallax. I've seen some beautiful things that people are doing online, but like I said, I'm not a graphic designer, and so I'm just doing what I can. Alright, right here we're going to target our 4 flower this time, and we're not going to do anything with the horizontal. We're going to make that negative so it scrolls up, and we're actually going to leave this at divided by 2 because we want it to scroll up quickly. So let's see what that looks like. So as I scroll up, the flower moves up, and just as it's getting up here, you can see the stem. So the whole flower actually goes through the view. Yeah, like that. So actually what happens is right here, you can see that the flower is starting to cover the boutique. I think that's pretty cool. So that's our parallax effect. That's our header. So I'll see you guys in the next video. In the next video, we're going to actually put some content on the page, our products and everything like that. So I'll see you then.